Hey, I'm Chris Cuomo. It's Thursday, and we are live with breaking news for NewsNation's continuing coverage of the first indictment of a U.S. president in our history. Former President Donald Trump has made history once again. He made history by being twice impeached. Now he is the first indicted by a Manhattan grand jury. For what? We do not know. Why? It's under seal. Now, there's a lot that's out there about this situation that's wrong already. So we're going to take our time. We're going to cover it from all angles, and we're going to explain how we got to this point. We have covered it since the beginning, and it is safe to assume it likely involves payments made during the 2016 presidential campaign to silence claims of an extramarital sexual encounter with porn star Stormy Daniels. Why? Well, because we have seen a lot of reporting that the Manhattan DA was presenting evidence surrounding that situation to this grand jury. Now, there's a lot of misinformation out there about this also, saying that this is all brag. No, there's a grand jury. Yeah, but it's his grand jury. No, he had to go to a judge to impanel a grand jury. Yeah, but you can indict anybody. No, but it is a relatively low bar, and we'll go through all of this tonight. But we are not blind on the situation, and not just because of the reporting, but the reality. We have this, the guilty plea by his former liar for hire, Michael Cohen. And I will give you language from this that shows why then federal prosecutors and now state prosecutors believe that there could be there. Remember, however, for there to be an indictment on a felony, okay, as opposed to a misdemeanor, it's probably going to have to be more than what they went after Michael Cohen for. How can they get that? We'll see. We'll see. It doesn't have to, but they could get him on the same charges. But going after a former president, you might expect something more. Why? Because right now, we are on protest watch all over the country. We have correspondents set up in all the potential hotspots. We will go to them as needed. I'm not here for hype, so I'm not going to go to places hoping that there's agitation. I really hope there isn't. It would have been really good for me to report that former President Trump came out and gave a statement saying, hey, I've got this, stay calm. But he didn't. He used inflammatory language, once again, playing himself as the victim and seeing this as basically as an assault on about 30% of the country. And we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully, people keep their own conscience on this and let the system create the confrontation, not their own actions. Now, again, this is the first criminal case against a former U.S. president. Why? Well, in part, you could say because former presidents haven't made themselves as much a target as Trump has, but also there is this naivete, this innocence that borders on ignorance, that, hey, look, as long as you can make a case beyond a reasonable doubt, then, you got to bring the case. That's not how prosecutions work. OK, there is a subjective element. There is an element of discretion. Not everybody that they can make a case against them gets a case made against them. OK, and that doesn't mean that someone is necessarily above the law, but there is discretion. Now, for Trump's part, we know he denied any wrongdoing, attacking the investigation on his Truth Social and in tweets calling the indictment political persecution. I think we probably have his Truth Social post. Hopefully, at some point, we'll put it up on the screen. In typical fashion, he spelled indictment indicated. Or indication, I believe, instead of indictment. But when someone bothers to put it up on the screen, you'll see it for yourself. He is not wrong to use this to play the victim and outrage his supporters. That is the right political play. Now, how you do that is very important as well, and he has done it in inflammatory fashion so far. Trump lawyers said in a statement, he did not commit any crime. We will vigorously fight this political prosecution, not persecution, prosecution in court. Is there irony in Trump using lock her up against Hillary Clinton, constantly telling crowds that many of his opponents and many people in the institutions of our democracy should be investigated and were criminal? Yes. Asking that that President Zelensky of Ukraine investigate his then opponent. yes, it is ironic that he thinks it is wrong to be criminally investigated and have the process turned on him when he has been so vigorously asking for it to be turned on others. But that is politics, and that cannot be what this is about. Now, you'll say, well, how can it not be? D.A. Bragg. Yeah, you're right. And he did run on a platform that involved bringing accountability to Donald Trump. And that is politics. But there's something you should know here. It's not just as simple as Bragg's show. Look, I'm not saying that you can't indict a ham sandwich. I'm not saying that this is a prosecutor's game. There's no defense case. It's only evidence from that side looking for a probable cause standard, which is one of the lowest in the system. But he had 23 grand jurors that a judge said it was okay to impanel. He needed to have half of them, at least half of those that showed up. I don't know that there were 23 on the day that they voted. But that means that when Bragg asked them to vote, because that's what triggers the vote by the grand jury, at least half of them return charges. What are they? We'll see. Now, this suggestion that he's hiding them, that's why it's under seal. No. Why is it under seal? Okay. One of two reasons, and we'll discuss with better legal minds in a moment. But the judge could have done it. Why? Well, whatever reason in their discretion they thought. Public safety could be one. Could be. It could be asked for by the district attorney. Why would he ask for that? Because he wants to keep it secret, right? Not necessarily. Yes, but it's why. Get his witnesses in order. Get documents in order. Allow time to prepare. Oh, but this isn't fair. They indicted him, but nobody knows why. But remember, the process can't go forward until it is unsealed. So the idea that, oh, they're going to arrest him tomorrow, we got to go out into the streets. He is not getting arrested tomorrow. I don't know that the former president will be arrested at all. Very often, there are negotiated surrenders. Happens all the time, especially in white-collar cases, and that's certainly what this is. That will be an arraignment. He'll come, he'll have to be given the charges against him. That's how our system works. And at that time, it will have had to have been unsealed. So you're going to know what's in there. And look, I don't think it's wrong to put pressure on Bragg et al., the others, his team, that there better be something in there that we weren't expecting. Otherwise, he's going to have a very high bar in terms of getting any kind of satisfaction in court. I think that's a fair assessment, but we'll have assessments from better minds in a second. And what do we know? Well, it wasn't just Stormy Daniels, okay? There was money paid to Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal, okay? Why? Because they were threatening to talk. That's why. So what does this have to do with the campaign? That is a good question. If they were paid because he worried about his family, worried about his reputation, he worried about whatever he worried about, and that's why he had Cohen pay them, well, then what are we doing here? It would almost certainly have to be tied to this being seen as a campaign contribution by Michael Cohen that was booked as something else. Now, is that believable? Is it demonstrable? Is it conceivable and provable to a degree beyond a reasonable doubt for a jury? I don't know. You're going to get to weigh in, of course. 1-844-968-7720. Now, I do want to remind you of this. There are a lot of people out there saying he did nothing wrong. He didn't even know about this. We know as a matter of fact that is not the case. Okay? How? Because while Michael Cohen did lie to people, including me, about Donald Trump not knowing what he did, he was lying. How do we know? Because he audio taped, he recorded a conversation with Donald Trump in the presence of another man, Weisselberg, the CFO, who was put in the hot seat by the New York district attorney, the Manhattan district attorney, in which they discussed this payment of Stormy Daniels and others as part of what some buddy of his at the National Enquirer had as like a basket of stories that he'd been keeping quiet for Trump, and this was the way of making sure it stayed that way. Did they mention the campaign? No, but we have the video, we have the audio tape, and I will remind you of it so that the idea that we could put to rest. We can put two things to rest right now before we go to any guests. One, that it's under seal because they're trying to keep it secret because they don't want you to know anything ever. That's not true. The process can't go forward if it stays under seal, all right? There will be nothing that can happen to Trump. Second, Trump never knew about this. It was all Michael Cohen. Dusty, do you have the audio tape? Okay, let's play the audio tape to get this question out of the way of he didn't know anything about this. Play the audio, please.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David, so that I'm going to do that right away. I've actually come up and I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
So what are we going to pay?
Funding. Yes. And it's all the stuff, because you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be.
Gets hit by it.
Correct. So I'm all over that, and I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
What financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
Don't pay. Okay.
No. I got no.
All right, he knew. Okay, now doesn't mean that he committed a felony that was related to the campaign. It doesn't. Now, on Michael Cohen, remember this. He pleaded guilty to 5 counts of tax fraud, false statements to a financial institution, unlawful corporate contributions, excessive campaign contributions, okay? Now, what does that mean? They tied him to this. Well, he tied himself. He pleaded guilty, okay, that's what this was, that this should have been a campaign contribution, and it was more than it was allowed to be, but, he did it anyway. Why? Well, one of 2 reasons. 1, it's the truth, or 2, they had him on other things that he feared more, and this was the deal that he cut, was to cop a plea on that. Now, if the second one is true, that's good news for Trump, because it may mean that they weren't able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, but they could have proved other things that had more of a sentence or that scared Michael Cohen more. Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.